Hello everyone, I'm Pavel, and this presentation will be about using open source tool called FastNetMon Community for DDoS detection. So, okay, clicker. Yes. So, who am I and why I'm talking about it? My first passion was in my life, it was software engineering. I got formal education and I consider myself a software engineer. Now I run a company called FastNetMon Limited in the United Kingdom. I'm co-founder of this company and I'm chief technical officer of this company. So I'm in charge of product development. I started my career for domain name registrar. It was a great way to get into the industry of running internet. It was one of the components of the internet, numbers and resources. After working many years for this company, I switched my interest more into focus of running real Linux systems, and I co-founded with my friend company in cloud compute. At some point of time, I get bored, and I got second job. It was part-time job, and that was a way how I get into telecommunications. I worked as network analyst for one of the actually largest internet exchange points. And finally, I decided to completely change my career, and instead of working mostly for operational part of networks and computer part, I started to work for a large CDN provider. And now I run a company called FastNetMon, and we 100% committed for running and making DDoS detection more affordable. What is FastNetMon Community? It is cross-platform application. It's program, it's not hardware. It never was hardware, and we have no plans in making it hardware. FastNetMon, when I say cross-platform, I mean Linux, FreeBSD, macOS, and we have some plans about Windows soon, so it will be 100% cross-platform. And it implemented in language called C++. Many of people can find it scary, but it's actually one of the key components of FastNetMon success because it's very fast and allows us to develop our product quite fast and without any impact on performance. You know this feeling, because DDoS it's not something you well prepared. It happens right now, in the middle of night, or in the middle of your date, or in the middle of your night out, and it's here. And if somebody was watching my presentation in record or just found my slides, that's a way how you can install FastNetMon right now, if you want. We spent a lot of work for making it possible, because getting software into official repositories of distributions such as Debian or Ubuntu or FreeBSD or Fedora, it's complicated and lengthy process. And we didn't do it alone because we had great support from community. And I would like to thank you to every single maintainer of our packages, because otherwise it will be impossible to do. And if for some reasons you are not running latest version of Ubuntu or Debian, you can use our install app, which supports plenty of different distributions and different platforms. And officially, this one is a product presentation. Every single product presentation you heard previously starts from things you can do. And in this one, we will start from things we cannot do. For example, one of the first cases, you have issues with your personal blog or your corporate website. And you assume your website is down because of DDoS attack. Can FastNetMon help you? Nope, sorry. What is the best case? There are lots of options how you can move your website to a large cloud-based security provider, and they will help sort it out. For example, you have issues with DDoS attack against your Xbox or PlayStation. It may be your own one, or it may be your kids, and apparently it happened in exactly the same time of most important game of their life. Sad stuff, really. Not so many we can do in this case. And different option if you use managed service provider. Managed means that somebody in charge of managing for you, and it's very unlikely that you have access for inspiring network policies. That's very unlikely that you have access for BGP backbone. You just rely on somebody else to run it for you. And if you experience DDoS in this case, what is the best option? Call them, ask for help. Finally, what FastNetMon can do for you? The main purpose of FastNetMon to detect and defend your network as a wall against DDoS. Instead of covering specific entity, specific service in your network, the main purpose of FastNetMon to make your network run smoothly as much as possible. And that's the main purpose of our product. Can FastNetMon protect your network for every single attack we can imagine? And that's quite a complicated story in general, because there are so many ways how you can call DDoS attacks. Some companies, they call DDoS attack types after their own names. Fun, but it doesn't explain anything. Some DDoS attacks, they called after service which was used to trigger this DDoS attack. For example, memcached or NTP. Does it say anything to network engineers? And in general, to understand like all complex classification of DDoS attacks, you need to keep at least 500 of different random names, which don't explain anything. But they have one thing which is slightly outdated, and some people think it's completely outdated, which is OSI model. And from this perspective, FastNetMon works only with volumetric attacks on levels 3 and levels 4. And apparently, that's most of the protocols you deal on a daily basis. And again, as I mentioned, for websites, it's more about level 7, completely out of scope. In terms of protocols, I mean a version of protocols we run. Unfortunately, we have to support legacy protocol, which is IPv4. And we support IPv6. For every single option available in our product, it may be BGP announcers, capabilities for retrieve traffic from routers. We have complete support for IPv6. So that's what we can help you. And that's the scope of our product. What is the very first step you do if you assume or suspect that your network is under DDoS? Why we cannot be sure? Because how we know very first time about DDoS attack, it's quite unclear. Because you just open your corporate app and something doesn't work. You just open your corporate laptop and it doesn't work. Your customers calling you like crazy, saying like something doesn't work or everything doesn't work. And at this point of time, we need to be sure that this specific outage was caused by DDoS. And in some cases, it's very complicated and very important. And why it's important? Because if it's not DDoS, it may be something else. And meanwhile, you're trying to run TCP dump, you're trying to check your out-of-band connectivity to your routers, but you need to call fire brigade because it's not DDoS. And if in the same time you receive an email notification about improvement of your network, of course, every single time it's to improve the reliability of your network, you need to do some kind of maintenance. And exactly the same time as scheduled, something happens and your network is dead. Again, not DDoS, blame your colleagues for doing something. And there are some cases which may look like disastrous DDoS you never experience. And it's still not DDoS. It may ruin internet for countries, continents, but again, not DDoS. But it will look like DDoS. You open your portal, you open your website, nothing works. But again, not DDoS. How we can say for sure that this specific issue caused by DDoS? We look on data. But we are not looking on raw data. We are not data scientists. We're looking on graphs. And this one is not issue with fire. It's very unlikely it's caused by maintenance. It's a huge spike of traffic for for every single uplink you have in your network. Oh, and this one apparently is DDoS. And it is first value and what our product and what FastNetMon brings for you. We provide almost real-time graphs built from telemetry received from your routers and provide them for you. if you're not interested in any DDoS detection capabilities, you still can use our product and it will be very beneficial for you. But instead of focusing on physical level of network, instead of showing you hundreds of graphs for a load of specific uplink or specific backbone or specific router, we try to provide just single dashboard which provides total load of every single uplink you have. And from all our graphs are on different aggregation levels. So first one is a total graph, and you can see it here. And of course, we provide options to show you total incoming traffic and outgoing traffic. And this one, usually, you will keep on your large displays in your office, if you have them. And next one is, again, it's not only about bandwidth, also about packet rate, because packet rate and bandwidth are both very important for different type of DDoS attacks. In some cases, it may be low bandwidth attack. In some cases, it may be high packet rate attack. And next step is to provide visibility about load for specific networks in your network. Because usually we try to make IP addressing in a way to understand this one keeps DNS services, this one keeps customer services, this one caches. And you can find out, okay, we have some issues for this specific customer in this specific region. And you can find it out. And latest the aggregation level is a host level traffic. You can find out for every single host in your network up to /32 or /128 and find out specific amount of bandwidth, for example, used by ICMP protocol yesterday or today or right now. And most valuable part of this data is real time. It's not delayed. And if something happens with your network now, you can see it on graphs immediately. How it implemented? Under the hood, it's not a custom graphing tool. We use Grafana. Everyone use Grafana. If you don't, please use Grafana. It's a kind of industry standard, and we are software engineers. And most of our people and teams, they have experience in backend engineering. And you don't want to see what kind of websites we can build. You don't. So that's why we rely on well-known tool, and we just export information from FastNetMon into a variety of time series database. It may be Victoriometrics, it may be Graphite, it may be InfluxDB. In some cases, it may be ClickHouse. And it does data with timestamp, host or prefix name, and bandwidth. You don't need to aggregate, you don't need to calculate anything. Data here, you just need to graph it. If you don't like Grafana, you may use, for example, Prometheus. We also support Prometheus. And how FastNetMon receives the data? And how magic starts? We rely on traffic telemetry protocols such as NetFlow, IPFix, SFlow, or Port Mirror to deliver this information from your routers. So to deploy FastNetMon in your network, of course, you need to install FastNetMon. And second step, you need to change configuration of your routers to send telemetry information from your routers or switches or some different network devices like firewalls to FastNetMon. And from FastNetMon side, you don't need to make any configuration. Unlike experience you have with SNMP, you need to set specific version of SNMP. You need to set communities. In this case, you don't need to do anything. You just need to send all traffic from your routers to FastNetMon, and you will have this information. And we have really great support of modern protocols like IPFix 315 from Cisco or inline monitoring services from Juniper. And those protocols, they address one of the main issues of protocols of a family of IPFix and NetFlow, which is delay. Because by design, by their nature, protocols NetFlow and IPFix, they were designed to have delay for aggregation. So data usually is delayed by 30 seconds. It depends on vendor, or maybe 15 seconds. But by using the latest protocols like SFlow or IPFix 315 from Cisco or inline monitoring services from Juniper, you can have data delayed by just half second on our graphs. And I believe it's quite close to our expectations. It's very close to real time. Next question is to answer. At this moment of time, we know for sure we are under DDoS. What is the problem to find out target? Again, if you know your services so well, at the moment you got information like, look, we're under DDoS, you may have suspects in your list. Because, for example, some services are victims of DDoS constantly. For example, if you want to test your network for resistance to DDoS, you can try to host some Minecraft or different game servers and wait. It will not end well. But when it happens, you will know for sure that this specific service was targeted. And problem is, there is an abstract map of United Kingdom. And you may see there are a lot of interconnections. And if you operate ISP, which is just covers some part of country, you need to find out, in case when you receive that information via under DDoS, you need to check tens of cities, tens of regions, hundreds of villages, and thousands or tens of thousands of households before you can find out, oh, this specific person playing Fortnite right now. You know, it's complicated. There is a different scenario. If you're like a person and if you're not involved in residential ISP services or transit providers, and you just operate data center. Data center is simpler. It's just one building. Of course, it's a huge building, but it's a building which is not scattered around the country. Just one. Is it simpler? Sadly, not. Because in the modern data centers, you may have more services and you have eyeballs, for example, in the United Kingdom, which is 72 million. So it's not a simple problem, even in this case. And what we can do, as in FastNetMon, you already have information in Grafana about what is the total load for your network, what is the per prefix load in your network, what is the per host load of your network. What's your approach? Brute force. Check every single host in your network and look for anomaly spikes of traffic. What do we mean anomaly spike? For example, you provide service which is 200 megabits, it's a residential service. And everything else, which is twice more, it's definitely not normal. And it's definitely worth to look on it. And that's exactly what we can do manually by checking every single host. But again, machines can do it better. Humans are not built for it. And that's exactly how FastNetMon can help you. In our lab tests and multiple large deployments, FastNetMon can check up to 1 million effective hosts in your network per second. For exactly the same algorithm we just explained here. In configuration, you just need to set every single host which generates more than 5G of bandwidth or more than 500 packets per second is not normal, and it can be considered as a DDoS attack. And FastNetMon can notify you immediately when it happens. And I believe it's one of the main values of FastNetMon. But what we can do with this value? Like, we just received information. Look, we are under DDoS. And you have information, what is the target of DDoS attack? But again, it's not very actionable because we're trying to solve and make our problem simpler. And of course, we just want to sleep over our weekend or have proper time outside of our work. And in this case, in FastNetMon, we have complete integration via different BGP daemons. One of them is ExaBGP, second one is GoBGP. And when FastNetMon detects attack, in addition to just sending notification, look, this specific host in your network is under attack. We provide option to announce BGP affected host or network to which this host belongs, a specific BGP community to your routers. And then you can do what you want. In most of the cases, it is black hole. Black hole usually can be explained in different ways. And in general, we assume it's quite simple approach. You just cut all traffic to host and magic happens. Unfortunately, it's not an easy way to explain it, and I'm trying here, but my favorite explanation about what is black hole. Black hole is a religious sacrifice run by network engineers to keep their network running. A sacrifice is extremely important because we are talking here to save network. And when we move away from saving network to saying, look, we want to block target of DDoS attack. It may sound ridiculous, because you just help attackers to accomplish their goal, but it's not. Because our goal to keep our network running, if in our network we have 20,000 of customers, it must not suffer and degrade because of attack on single customer. And first step, what we can do, is to black hole. Does it mean we need to stop on this moment? Actually not, because by using BGP annonces, you may, instead of doing black hole, you may rely on your DDoS scribing center in cloud. You may have subscription for companies like Nevas or Voxility or Passnet or larger players like F5. And then, in case when you receive DDoS attack, you can move affected prefix by this specific DDoS attack, in case of IPv4/24, to cloud scribing center. And in this case, instead of blocking service, you just move it away to cloud. And it happens without any involvement of human beings. Again, you may keep sleeping. And it will happen automatically without any human intervention. And it will happen very fast. And I believe that's all. And I would like to cover in more details that since we started working on FastNetMon, it happened a long time ago. We started work on FastNetMon in 2012. And again, my background is software engineering. Back in time, I had no idea about NetFlow, BGP, S-Flow, IPFix. I learned it from network community. Every single time we added new feature for our product, we received detailed feedback or email or chat message from network users. Look, I have a problem in my specific network, in my specific region, with this specific vendor. And they explain it and try to express what is their issue. And we try to listen, and we try to find out what is the best way to address multiple issues. So I would love to highlight that FastNetMon was built for community feedback. And we contribute back to community. So if you want to join our community channels, we try to cover majority of chats platforms or messaging platforms. If you hate, for example, Slack, you can use Discord. If you don't like Discord, you can use IRC. So many options. So, and thank you for listening, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Do we have any questions from the audience? Don't be shy. Ah, you're hungry, that's it.
Yes, exactly, lunchtime. Oh, question.
Hi, Rory from Google. You talked about DDoS detection. Like, when you're going through the point where you are looking at the traffic, how sure are you that there's a DDoS? Like, is there some kind of statistical probability this is or is not a DDoS?
That's a great question. So question was how we can show that this specific spike of traffic is DDoS. Unfortunately, we are not sure. It may be just high-speed download, or somebody in your network just introduced a new service and started downloading, for example, files via torrent. And one of the main points when we started building FastNetMon was to make it simple. And baseline approach, it may sound so simple, but if you know your network very well, you can have in mind what is the level of traffic when your network starts degradation. So it may be completely valid traffic, but for example, if it causes congestion on your upstreams, it may be considered DDoS from this perspective. But answering the question, yes, you need, in this case, to be 100% sure that this specific traffic is DDoS, you need to adjust baselines according to traffic which cannot be reached by normal traffic. So for example, your customers are on 1G plan, or your service on 10G plan. You can create different baselines for specific groups, for different groups in your network, and set different baselines for them. But of course, if you set too low baselines, which can be reached by normal operation and normal use of service, FastNetMon will consider it as DDoS attack, and you will need to reiterate and adjust it. And one of the ways how you can learn what is a baseline for your network, because if I ask you, like, what is your baseline? You're like, I have no idea because, nobody asked me previously. Again, we export lots of data in a time series database as InfluxDB, Prometheus, and you can see in Grafana, just baseline, this is peak traffic for your host. This is average traffic for you. And then according to those values, you can decide what is the value you need to set as baseline. And from this one, yes, it will be considered as attack, even if it's not.
Hi, I'm Morten from SmartShare Systems. Excellent answer to that question. So I have a follow-up question. You said that a host that has traffic that might be legitimate traffic might affect the other network, so it should be treated like a DDoS attack.
Yes.
Can you make that in that decision? Do you also consider the total traffic or the other points in the networks? So if it generates a huge amount of traffic, but it doesn't really degrade the other network, you still allow it and say, okay, it might be a DDoS attack, and it might be valid traffic, but it doesn't cause any degradation. So let's just let it go.
It's a great point, and I think it's because in FastNetMon, when we started building FastNetMon, it was built for making automation simpler. So you may create quite sophisticated scenarios when FastNetMon detects attack. Because when FastNetMon detects attack, it can call Bash script, Python script, or Perl script, or Java app. And then you may implement more complicated logic, what you need to do in this specific case. There are multiple projects. One of them was created by a company called Zendesk. It's called NetHailer. That's exactly what it's doing. After getting notification about spike of traffic from FastNetMon, they check what is the status of their upstreams. If it's all right, no congestions, no overload, just ignore it. But it's not part of our product, but it can be implemented by our product.
Any other questions? No?